The Sci-Fi Film Podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Sci-Fi Film Podcast. I'm Andy Walker and I am joined as always by my son Scott. Hello, Scott.
Hello.
How art thou?
I'm okay. Realised again. I do this every time. Like I
What?
realised I might need to move because as everyone keeps pointing out to me, I have silver hair now.
Right.
Where I sit under the light, it looks like I've got a really dodgy halo.
You all right?
No, I'm okay. How are you, Father? How's the week been?
Yeah, not bad. A bit full. This time of year is always a bit full on in the community centre world.
Yes.
And things. Yeah, other than that, all right. Well, the good news appears to be that the Romford Horror Film Festival will be going ahead.
Yes, I see that.
Now, whether or not we are able to get press passes in order to do a review of it, I don't know at the moment. I'm waiting to find out. But
Oh,
we will see what we will see.
no, I'm glad
Um,
I'm glad they found a new venue though, and they've managed to find. Well, keep it going really, because the amount of work they've done to get it to where
yeah,
it is for them to be able
absolutely.
to just stop must have been a pain. But I'm glad they managed to sort it.
Yes. So, yeah. Um, okay. So we're doing science fiction this week.
Yeah, it's the
We have
second
two.
week in a row. Was just
It is the second week in a row, I
yeah.
think. I've
No,
lost
I don't know.
track.
Yeah,
Lost track.
lost track of it. It's the thing we normally keep a track of what we've done. And it seems that this last few months it seems to have gone all over the place.
Yes, this year has been a bit odd. Um, but yes, we've got two short films and a feature film. Now, the
Gosh.
first short film is from 2022. It's a sci-fi comedy called Krog is Definitely an Alien. This is
Mm.
by Loose Tooth Productions. Yes. And the synopsis for this says, after a new co-worker by the name of Krog, clearly appearing to be an alien in disguise, joins the team, Larry sets out to find definitive proof of Krog being an alien and convince his team once and for all. Yeah. It's a bit the thing that gets me about this is it's actually quite a slow-paced film, really, considering what it is.
It's so bizarre.
It is, it is very
I
bizarre.
genuinely thought when we started watching, when you suggested this to me, and I thought, okay, maybe it's going to be, I don't know, mainly because I seen if it was a comedy. I thought, okay, yeah, it's going to be a bit of slapstick or maybe something to it. And then I thought maybe they might take themselves a little bit seriously with the makeup, but no.
No, I mean, I gotta say, I really quite like this film. It's
I think I love the the comments in it. Is the fact obviously he tries his hardest to convince everyone he's an alien, and it's all whole met with the whole you can't say that nowadays and everything
yeah,
like that. And even at the end, what ends up losing this guy the job isn't even the fact that he is an alien.
no,
And I think that's the best bit. It's the fact it's just like oh you can't lie on your TV,
no,
and I was like what? And I thought it's just again it was certain bits of it I was like this can't be a serious film.
no.
And
I mean,
then
I mean, there's a kind of message, I suppose, about inclusion and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it is quite, I think it's quite funny and it's quite, as you say, it is bizarre.
Oh,
I In the extreme, it is bizarre.
yeah, it's one of them films that saying I sat there and again I watched this sort of off to the side while Amy was doing other things, and it's one of the moments when Krog come up on the screen and she just looked at me. She went, "What the hell are you watching?" And I was because I pulled it so I could move, and she just looked at me. She went, "What are you watching?" And the thing is that a few years ago when we done this, I sort of had to explain, "Oh, it's a film I'm watching for the podcast and stuff like that." Now I just look at her and go, "That's empty." She goes, "Oh."
Fair enough. No, yeah, right. But the thing is, I actually quite, as I say, I quite like it. I thought it was quite a good film. It's a good laugh, and it's silly, and it's yeah. As long as you're not
Yeah.
expecting anything too serious from it, it's quite good fun.
It's a very interesting film.
It's that, yes. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Now, the second short film is actually it's a bit longer. It is called Laboratory Conditions.
Yeah.
This is on Alta, which is a bit like
Bit
Dust
like Dust,
and
yeah.
that, yeah. And it's dated 2022, but that's not necessarily. It might be slightly older than that. It's a film by Jocelyn Stamat, is the director. And interestingly, the cast for this is the two of the main people are Marissa Tomei and Minnie Driver and
Yes.
Paul Costanzo as well. And the writer is Terry Rossio. The synopsis for this says a physician investigating a missing body disrupts an unlawful experiment.
Yeah. I was, it's one of the moments, obviously, when you click on it or bring it up, it comes up saying feature and so on and so on. I was like, okay, there might be like little cameo parts in it, maybe.
Yeah,
But the fact that it's saying the whole way through, and it's only when, like I said, the main physician turned up, and I was like, she looks really familiar.
yeah,
And then obviously, like, Leo goes through, and I'm like, he looks familiar. She looks what? So I sort of paused it and went through. I was like, oh, okay. And then Sam, some of the having that cast list in it makes it very interesting. I liked the idea behind this.
I think it's brilliant. I mean, it's obvious that this has had some money put into it. I mean, you can
Oh
tell that
yeah,
by the cast and the way the effects are done, it has
yes,
had money put into it.
yeah,
Um, but it is a great idea.
yeah. I've watched a lot. We've watched a lot of films, both sci-fi and horror, that have dealt with the whole, I suppose, life after death and what happens and the whole that side of it, but never anything that happens. What happens between that moment of life to death?
Yeah,
What happens there and what happens to? And I like the fact that because I know there are scientists out there that are doing this for real, just doing that whole part of the body if there's a soul, like what the genome is that we haven't mapped or anything like that. Oh, not the
yeah,
genome, sorry, the part of your brain that's not been mapped and stuff like that. And I love the fact that they put this out, and I love this type of film.
yeah. I think it's excellent. I mean, as I said, great. The idea is brilliant, and the story is brilliant. It works really, really well. I I really like this, and I would really like to see it expanded into a full movie.
See, I was thinking either a full movie or some sort of um like as a series to sort of go along of maybe sort of explaining like the different parts of it, how where maybe how the people came to get to
Yeah,
this point. But I don't know. But I do like the idea of a film and seeing even just seeing where these people could take this because
yeah.
this like it's a what is it? It's not even a I think it's like a 20 minute long twenty
Can't
minute long
think,
film maybe I think
something like that. Yeah.
and the story that's sorry, a 17-minute long film. And the story that is told in that film is a
Yes.
matter. Don't get me wrong, like you said, it's had money put into it. It's obviously had people behind it, backing it. But I think it is such a great story being told.
It is. I mean, the story is great. The effects are brilliant. The idea is just really good. and
Yeah,
it's really, I mean, it's well acted because of the fact that you know that it's going to be well acted.
yeah, not being funny. As soon as they come up saying Mini Driver was in there, I was like, this is, I'm not having to worry about the acting for a start.
Yeah, but no, I was really impressed with it. It's really good idea and a really
And
good
like
film.
you said, the special effects in it were, it was very well, because obviously a lot of, especially films like this, it's almost, you look at it and go, oh, okay, yeah, it's a pull from that film, or not even a pull, but it's, you've copied that idea from that film, or
Yeah, yeah,
that person looks like they could fit in it. But the special effects and the creatures and the ghosts and everything in this, I was like, they look so unique, so well done, and so like, I know they are, but so real
yeah.
to
No, no,
like
yeah.
with the effects. That I think it was really well done.
It was. It's a really good film. Really worth watch. Definitely worth watching. Okay, on to our feature film. Now, this is from 2023, and this is a film called Andron.
I didn't realise it was that recent.
It's also known as Andron the Black Labyrinth. The director is Francesco Cinquemani, and the cast of this includes there are others, but it includes Alec Baldwin, Danny Glover, Skin, Michelle Ryan, and Gaia Scodelario.
Yeah. So
Now,
again, it's another film that's got some names in it.
yeah, the synopsis for this says in the year 2145, a group of young men and women awake in a dark, claustrophobic maze. They don't remember who they are or how they got stuck in the black labyrinth of Andron. Yeah. Now, I mean, it starts off a bit like almost like a sort of reality TV video game sort of thing.
Yeah.
It reminded me a bit of like the Cube and things like that, but it's not as interesting. And the characters are really quite boring, to be honest with you. Also, the inclusion of outside interference makes it a bit kind of not naff.
Yeah.
What's interesting, I just for a film that's got the amount of people in it that are actually decent actors or are quite well known and all that kind of thing, I honestly thought overall it was really quite a dull film.
Yeah. No, I did the same thing. I see the list and I'm like, okay, got some hope for this. And after watching it, I come to the conclusion that that whole theory that we've got that for certain actors they do a certain list of really really good films, and then they're contractually obliged to do really really god awful ones.
Yeah,
And
yes,
it's just, I sat there and I looked at Danny Glover, and I suppose even Alec Baldwin to a certain extent, because there's certain films I've seen him in that he's been in good. Good. I sat there and a few of them, and I was like, "What made you sign that contract?"
to be honest, the thing that gets me is there's lots of fighting and action and all this sort of thing in it, but it's just boring.
I was just, yeah, it's one of them ones. There's a lot of action scenes and fighting, but nothing really happens.
And the story is just so overly complex
Yeah,
that it ends up not making any sense.
it's sort of got about. I was trying to work this out, and I think I worked it down to about, there's about three stories going on at once,
Yeah,
and
and it
I
kind of
just
like I kind of feeling get the feeling that somebody watched Cube and The Matrix and thought we can kind of mash them together somehow.
yeah, there's sort of a mix between the Cube, Matrix, and Maze Runner.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
sort of, because again, I sort of sat there and I was like, okay, part of this makes sense, and I like the whole idea about the fact that they're in this maze and it's always changing.
yeah,
That's the whole premise behind it. It's once you're in, there's not really, you're meant to fight to be there's one left, but by the sounds of it, there never is.
yeah.
and I like that sort of idea to it. But but then when starts getting to the point of, oh, there's a computer virus that's been put into it, I'm like, how? What? Okay. And then the outside interference with other bits, and I'm like, this is getting so complicated.
Yeah,
And it's sort of obviously Alec Baldwin's character's got his own sort of mischievous sort of plans going on, but he's then answering to someone else who's got their own plans going on. And I'm like, I really sort of, by about halfway through, I'm like, I have no idea what's going on now.
the thing that got me is the fact that we've watched a couple of films which are basically effectively like one level in this maze.
Yeah,
We've watched films where it is sort of like, there's a group of people in this room who have to fight these things in this room to get out to get to the next room.
yeah,
And they have been 100 times more interesting to watch than the whole of this film.
yeah,
And I just think, how can you? I mean, Michelle Ryan, don't get me wrong. I mean, she was in EastEnders and she was in Doctor Who and she was in, I think she was in the American version of the Tomorrow People for a while. I'm not sure. But she's been acting for quite a while, but she
yeah.
came across as just being really kind of like
No.
almost like she didn't want to be there.
Well, this is what I'm saying. I think this is what sort of gave me that whole feel of she was obviously contracted, like sort of being told, you've got to do this or otherwise you can't make another film, or you've got to do this or we can't do this film. Because
And
it's got to the point I was saying, just her whole attitude towards it was just like you said, just like, yeah, okay,
yeah. And without being funny, Skin, I love Skin. She's an amazing singer.
yes,
Um, she's got, I love Skunk Anansie, and she is brilliant in Skunk Anansie. If she could have brought some of the aggression that she brings to her singing to her acting,
yeah,
it would have been really good. But even her, the acting seemed a bit kind of like the action bits just seemed really kind of
yeah. I've got to admit, as you're saying about that, I even think that with Alec Baldwin, I've seen like seeing some of the films that he's been in, and he's got this seeking this sort of get up and go, sort of come on, let's go. And even when it's okay, yeah, he's meant to play the sort of bad guy in this, but even him sitting there, you can see his whole sort of like his attitude and sort of body language when he's sitting at the desk, because just like, yeah, okay, I just don't want to be here.
yeah.
And
I
I
mean,
get the fact that that might be part of the character, but it's just like genuinely just like
Danny
this
Glover.
seems like a film that they just went, we need you to do this.
Danny Glover, to an extent, I can understand. He's not a young man anymore. And it's like, how many parts are you going to be getting? So you kind of take what you can get.
Yeah,
But I don't know. I just can't believe how dull the film was altogether. And then
yeah.
when he got to the end, and it was like, well, none of this is real. Would you kind of go, what?
Yeah, it's just always when you get to the end, none of it's real, and then they go, "Oh, here's the next level," and I'm like, all of that, and it's not even. I was like, but it's just pointless, and
Yeah,
I don't. But it's again, I sat there at the end of it, and I was like, like we said, there was a lot going on,
you see,
a lot of information, a lot going on, a lot of action, but
I
nothing
don't.
really happened.
I don't mind that in a lot of things. You take things like films like The 13th Floor or
Yeah,
Dark City, where there is so much going on and there's so many different complex bits and pieces that have got to be fitted together, but they work because of
yeah,
the
it
fact
was.
you kept interested.
Yeah, well, like you said, like the ones you've got to queue. Well, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of stuff. But at the end of it, you're like, okay, yes, they've made progress.
Yeah,
Where at the end of this, I sat there like they've done all that pretty much to be told, well, you got to start again now. And
yeah,
it's just like, I get the fact, obviously, that's the whole idea of the film, I suppose. Of you get feel it, you think you're beating it, and it's like, well, no, actually, but it's just like I'm saying, a lot was going on for nothing to happen,
yeah. I
and
know.
it's just, I don't know,
And
it just.
it was just
It's
kind of like, I mean, even the fight scenes and I mean, they were just a bit kind of like known.
Yeah, it was. It was. I was looking forward to it for again for the cast list, I suppose. But sort of by the end of it, and I was like, "That's a." big disappointment, especially for,
Yeah.
like we said, for the people that are in it that have got these whole personas in different things and in real life, and to play these characters that basically are the complete and utter opposites.
And yeah, it was just by the end of it, I was disappointed too, and I just kind of
Yeah,
like thought, well, that was a real waste of time, you know.
yeah.
But,
I say, no, I know like the whole you're never going to get the time back, but I got to the end of that and I'm like, that is just an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes completely and utterly wasted.
I mean, you know,
And
I'm never
it's
going
a
to say
shame.
I will not say that it was the worst film I've ever seen because it isn't.
No, we've got a list now.
We've got a
But
list, but I mean, it's not even the worst science fiction film I've ever seen. But I think that my problem with it is not the fact that it was a bad film. It's just that it was really dull. It was
yeah,
really kind of boring. Nothing really.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's good ideas in it and there's a lot going on. Just if it had that energy to go, okay, yeah, they've done that and they've achieved something.
Yeah,
But it's sort of they
yeah,
go, we've done all this, and they're like, yeah, but well, we've got all this to do, and I'm like, celebrate the wins. And I
yeah.
think that's the bit is the fact that it was constantly just there was just a constant roll. There wasn't ever, I suppose, that sort of
And I think the other thing is the fact that when you get things like Cube, you got these characters, you don't know a lot about them. They all come together, but they're interesting.
yeah.
And what I found with the characters as they got together, I didn't know anything about them, but I didn't really want to. I didn't care.
No, no, there were a few characters like at the beginning. I sat there, like, after that, like, especially like when they got to know, like, I know that person. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe there's a story there. And then it sort of got to the point when they met up again. I'm like, I really couldn't care now.
Well, it will get me is it's like, oh, I know her, and then one of them dies. So you're never going to find out how they know
Yeah,
each other because of the fact that one of them's dead.
I know that person. She seems really familiar. And turn up again. Oh, she's not here anymore. Never mind. It's just like, what was the point of saying you know, like that's the
Yeah,
whole that whole setup? It's almost like that whole we're gonna come together, we're gonna know each other, we're gonna make a. So if they've done the whole, we know, well, I know that person. They then come together and go, we're here to help to bring down the thing. That
yeah,
makes a better situation. But not to go, we know each other, and then one of them to die, and you're like, so what's the story?
yeah. No, no, no. Okay, yes. Well, anyway, so we got Krog is definitely an alien, which was is bizarre but worth a watch.
Yes,
Laboratory Conditions, which is excellent and definitely worth a watch,
yes.
and Andron, which is basically not worth
Hour and a
bothering
half
with.
worth of boredom.
Yeah, it's yeah. If you want to go to sleep, it's
Yeah.
probably quite good. So yes, that's about it really. Thank you very much for your part in this show and everything and your analysis, sis, things.
That's all right.
Um,
Oh, I say this almost every week that I'm glad to do it, but I'm partly glad because of certain, well, it's a couple of films, but one of them I'm like,
yeah, no, no, I know. But it's an experience. You can say
yes.
I've seen this film and it's or you know it's not as bad as Starship Invasions.
Oh, was it? We did. I think the end of this, maybe next year, we need to write down a list to a top 10 of worst films that we think from the last few years we've done this. Right,
Yeah,
maybe a top 10 or even a top 5 of the worst ones we think.
and even outside of science fiction and horror films, I've got to say that I've never seen a film. I've yet to see a film on that we've done on this podcast that has left me so heartily fed up and almost angry with how awful it was as watching La La Land. That has got to be one of the most awful films ever made.
You know, I'm sort of glad that I know a few people that said the same thing. I'm sort of glad that I haven't actually watched it yet. Or haven't
Wow.
watched it. And the problem is they're saying everyone keeps saying stuff like that and it's putting me off so much that I don't actually want to.
See, the thing is, people say, people say, oh God, this is such an awful film. It makes me go, oh, I'll have to watch that and see what it's like.
Yeah.
But you see, I'm going to make a confession here, right? Okay, I like film musicals.
Yep.
I've always liked film musicals. So I watched La La Land because it was supposedly going to usher in this new wave of film musicals in the same sort of vein as the 1940s, 50s sort of Hollywood musicals that they had then. And I watched it and thought, oh my God, it is awful.
Yeah,
How did this
it's
ever get nominated for Oscars?
yeah. It's one of them things. I did the same thing. I sort of looked at. I like again. I like. There's certain musicals, and especially film musicals, that I love. I quite happily watch over and over again. But when Sam watching, listening to obviously your review of it, and the fact that like countless people I know that have gone, it is awful. Normally I sit there and go, I'll watch it. I watch it myself and make my own mind up. But even with this, I was sat there and I'm like, I'm not too sure I want to.
Now, there is one film I have discovered. I saw somebody put a review up online, and they said it's the worst film they've ever seen. I'm going to try and watch it. I think it's called 1979 Yellow Room. It's on Netflix. It's on YouTube. And it's a found footage film, and it's supposed to be absolutely garbage. So I'm going to try and watch it and see what it's like. Um, so yes. Anyway. Next time we will be doing some horror-ish. Um,
Horror-ish.
well, yeah, or that horror feature film and two short horror comedy kind of things. Um, yeah, you'll know what I mean when you see them.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Until then, thank you very much for paying attention to our wittering on. If you have, if you haven't, then whatever.
If you
And
haven't, then you're like us.
yeah. We've only got a couple more till Christmas.
Yes, I know we've had a lot of stuff going on, but the
Two,
year's
three,
almost over.
three more, I think, till Christmas.
Yes.
Something like that. Okay, so we'll see how we goes. All right, we are going to go and be back because if we don't go, we can't be back or something. Anyway, bye.
Bye.
The Sci-Fi Film Podcast.